Battle of Hunain, or Ghazwa Hunain, is one of the few battles mentioned by name in Quran. Speaking about the Battle of Hunain, the glorious Quran says in Surah At-Tawbah 25-27, "The conquest of Mecca triggered the mass conversion of the Arabs to Islam in many parts of the country. But there were some tribes living in the east and southeast of Mecca which did not wish to abjure idolatry. They were alarmed at the rapid progress of Islam, and they thought that if it continued to spread at the same speed, they would soon be surrounded by the Muslims and would become isolated from other pagan tribes. Their leaders figured that it would be unwise on their part to let the Muslims consolidate their recent gains and become too strong. They, therefore, decided to act immediately by attacking the Muslims in Mecca and destroying them. The leading tribes among them were the Taif, Hevazin, Banu Sa'ad, and Banu Jashim, all fierce warriors, jealous of their independence and proud of their warlike traditions. They had noted that Mecca had surrendered to Prophet Muhammad without striking a blow, but they attributed the failure of the Quraysh to resist him to their effeminacy. As for themselves, they were confident that they were more than a match on the battlefield for the warriors of Islam or any other warriors. In late January 630 CE, Shawwal 8 Hijra, in the Hunain Valley, situated approximately 18 to 20 kilometers en route from Mecca to Taif, the Prophet Muhammad received intelligence that Sakifis and Hevazin had left their home base and were moving toward Mecca. When these reports were confirmed, he too ordered a general mobilization in the newly conquered city. The Prophet didn't want Mecca to become a battleground. He therefore hastily left Mecca on January 26, 630, at the head of 12,000 warriors to meet the enemy. Out of this force, 10,000 men were from Medina, and the other 2,000 were recruits from the newly converted Meccans. This new army was the largest force ever assembled in Arabia to that date. As its various formations marched out of the city gate in full panoply of war, Abu Bakr, who was watching, was much impressed and exclaimed, "We cannot be defeated this time because of lack of numbers." But very soon he was proven wrong. Muslims were defeated at the beginning even though they were thrice as numerous as the enemy. Quran itself called attention of the Muslims, rather pointedly, that numbers alone were no guarantee that they would be victorious. 4 weeks had just elapsed since he, Muhammad, had quitted Medina, when he marched forth from Mecca at the head of all his forces, swelled now by the addition of 2,000 auxiliaries from Mecca to the large number of 12,000 men. Safwan, at his request, made over to him 100 suits of mail and stand of arms complete, and as many camels. The array of tribes, each with a banner waving at its head, was so imposing that Abu Bakr broke forth, as the marshaled forces passed, with the exclamation, "We shall not this day be worsted by reason of the smallness of our numbers." When the first column constituting the Muslim vanguard, commanded by Khalid ibn al-Walid, entered the valley of Hunain in the southeast of Mecca, the enemy was already lying in ambush, ready to greet it with his missile weapons. The pass was narrow, the road was very rough, and the Muslims were advancing apparently unaware of the enemy's presence. It was just before dawn when all of a sudden the Hevazin launched their attack. The surprise was complete, and the charge of the enemy was so impetuous that the Muslims could not withstand it. The vanguard, composed of the tribesmen of Banu Sulaim, broke and fled. The main body of the army was just behind. Khalid's column ran smack into its face and struck panic into its men so that they also turned their backs to the enemy and began to run. Soon, everyone in the army was running, and it was not long before Prophet Muhammad was left alone with a handful of his faithful followers around him. The men led by Khalid were the first to run before the charging enemy, and they were followed by the newly converted Umayyads of Mecca and their friends and supporters. Behind them were the citizens of Medina. Many Muslims were killed in the stampede, and many others were wounded. The apostle called out the fugitives, but no one listened to him. The army of Islam was in headlong rout, with the enemy at full tilt in pursuit. The apostle, of course, did not abandon his post and stood firm like a rock. 8 men were still with him, all watching the spectacle of the flight of their army. They were 1. Ali ibn Abi Talib, 2. Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, 3. Fadl ibn Abbas, 4. Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith ibn Abdul Muttalib, 5. Rabia, the brother of Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith, 6. Abdullah ibn Masud, 7. Usama ibn Zayd ibn Haritha, 8. Ayman ibn Obaid. Out of these 8, the first 5 belonged to the clan of Banu Hashim. They were the uncle and the cousins of the Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad asked his uncle, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, to call the fleeing Muslims. Abbas had a very powerful voice, and he shouted, "O ye Muhajirin, and O ye Ansar! O ye victors of Badr, and O ye men of the tree of fealty! Where are you going? The messenger of God is here. Come back to him." Abbas had a stentorian voice, and as he shouted these words over and over again at the pitch of his voice, they were heard far and near. At once they touched a chord in the hearts of the men of Medina. They were arrested in their flight and hastened to Prophet Muhammad, crying aloud, "Ya Labbaik, here we are at thy call." The voice of Abbas boomed in the narrow valley, and almost everyone heard it, and it proved effective in checking the flight of the Muslims. The Ansar were the first to halt and to return to the battle. Inspired by their example, others also rallied. Soon they were able to regroup. A fierce skirmish took place. At first, the issue appeared uncertain, but then the Muslims began to press the enemy. Once they recovered their morale, they went on the offensive. The enemy still fought bravely, but was hampered in his mobility by the vast number of women and children he had brought with him. During the most severe moment of the battle, Ali and Abu Dujana killed one of the flag-bearers of the enemy. When the Hevazins saw that, they started to feel scared. The Muslims pressed their advantage, and then it was the Bedouins who were running in all directions. Soon, Hevazin, Taif, and their allies realized that their efforts were in vain and that they faced destruction and defeat. They turned around and started to flee, leaving behind their women, children, and all their properties, camels, goats, and silver. The captives, which numbered approximately 6,000, were taken by Muslims. The enemy army that was defeated, and they left the battlefield. Prophet Muhammad ascended an eminence and watched the struggle. Excited by the spectacle, he began loudly to exclaim, "Now is the furnace heated. I am the prophet that lieth not. I am the offspring of Abdul Muttalib, messenger of Allah. Prophet Muhammad sent the booty and captives obtained in the Battle of Hunain to the place called Jirana, which is located approximately 24 kilometers from Mecca. The booty was then distributed amongst the Muslims. The Battle of Uhud had begun with the victory of the Muslims and had ended with their defeat. The Battle of Hunain began with their defeat and ended with their victory. There was a great slaughter of the Muslims at the beginning, which was caused by their own panic and irresolution.